and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA, where we're careful about what we say because we know we're being taped. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup. God knows what's happening this week.
Yeah.
From minute to minute.
And you may be tired of hearing about Jim Comey, but in his first public outing since being fired, he went to a lesbian-themed musical.
That is the honest-to-God truth, and we have the picture to prove it. But watch out, still in office, Attorney General Jeff Sessions wants the maximum sentence for anyone who violates our already draconian anti-drug laws.
And Trump signed an order that could severely impact the international fight against HIV/AIDS.
West Virginia's Supreme Court rules that the state's hate crimes law doesn't cover gay people.
But Connecticut banned conversion therapy for minors, M-I-N-O-R-S.
Well, we could use a little conversion for the minors, M-I-N-E-R-S.
Yes, we need to win them back.
Well, we need to give them jobs that don't involve, raping the environment.
Disease.
Yes. And a Hong Kong court is backing rights for gay civil servants who marry overseas, and we're expecting a ruling in the Taiwan same-sex marriage case any minute, but probably not while we're on the air.
And today, as we tape, is the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia and Biphobia.
That it is. Trump headlines always. We started the show last week by just throwing up our hands and saying it's hard to keep current with this stuff, so we've sort of given up trying. So I have a new little rant that I want to start this show with. Well, I sit home and I watch this stuff and I think about it. So here's my newest thought. You may accept or reject it as you please. You have the opportunity to watch these thoughts go through my head from one ear to the next. The Republicans should be taking advantage of what is going on to get rid of Trump. I think I could call this a conspiracy theory that goes back a long way, or I could say that they just need to be opportunistic. But I think what happened in the election was Trump came along, he was a celebrity, he got all the airtime, people lost their minds over him, and the right-wing Republicans, who knew they could not win with one of their candidates, said, all right, we're jumping on with this guy because this will get us in office. But the price of our jumping on is going to be Mike Pence as vice president. This is our opportunity to put someone in there who, as the supposed price of our going along with this guy,
well,
even though we'd go along with him anyway.
I think
just let me finish my thought, and then.
Sure.
So they get him in, and here he is on the verge of collapse. And I think instead of fighting it, instead of going out there and saying, oh no, he's our guy, you're being mean to him, fake news, all of that, they should be whipping around and saying, right, let's get rid of him, because we can put Pence in power now. We won't have to deal with that maniac, and we can get everything we want out of Mike Pence and the Republican Congress, who will be so happy to be able to work together that they can take over the world.
My thoughts almost exactly last night as well. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But they have to do it in such a way that, they have to wait for the buildup so that the Trump supporters also agree, it's gone too far.
Yes.
And that's whether it was a conspiracy from the start. Now, in case you weren't paying attention a year and a half ago, the Koch brothers wanted Mike Pence to be the next president of the United States. Mm-hmm. He was their pick, but he screwed it up with the gay stuff in Indiana. And he made a fool of himself. He actually did pretty well in the debate against Tim Kaine, I have to say, compared to Tim Kaine.
Yes.
And he is the one that they've always wanted for president. He's a complete right-wing nut, a religious extremist, etc. And
absolutely dependable on all their issues.
so yes, so I mean, we've all debated. Oh my God, if we get rid of Trump, what would be worse? Pence. Well, Pence at least wouldn't.
We're falling into their trap. I think we should think twice and be careful about what we wish for.
Start defending the president?
Well, I just think we should, or maybe lay back a little. But I think we ought to give serious thought to which one of these people we want as president of the United States.
Well, my thought in the beginning was Trump is so crazy, having his finger on the button scares the hell out of us. It's very hard to sleep at night.
And he could still do that. He
Yes.
could still nuke North Korea in a second. And I certainly don't want that. But the good thing is he's getting nothing done at the moment. Not nothing. He's creating a lot of havoc and a lot of horrible things around the country, but not as much as he would like to.
He's making alliances with people we never thought we'd make peace with. Dictators from around the world. This isn't funny.
Unbelievable.
That's the only people he likes.
And he's just invited another one to the White House. I agree it's totally a matter of timing about whether the right wing is going to be able to dump him. Pence may have his own problems that could.
We can
put
only
him
hope
in
that
danger.
gives us Paul Ryan is a monster as president, and after that, actually, I'll take Orrin Hatch. He's the fourth in line or third in line. Not a good guy. But
is he third or fourth?
Well, it's after the speaker. After the speaker, it's the president pro tem of the Senate.
Okay, but the
and
speaker is first.
The longest-serving senator.
Okay.
It's usually some really old person.
Well, it used to be Robert Byrd, but he's gone.
Carl Hayden from Arizona when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And I'd look at Carl Hayden as he could barely, stand up.
I agree Orrin Hatch would be preferable to anybody ahead of him. But I think this is getting very complex and interesting.
The other thing, of course, for Republicans is the timing of we have to get rid of him in order to run in 2018.
Yes,
they cannot be aligned with. They do have to get rid of him for that reason.
Yes.
They cannot run with this maniac as their
But
leader.
I don't see them actually impeaching him. I see them going to him en masse privately and saying, "You have to go."
Well, Nixon said he would never quit, and of course he did.
Exactly.
Trump will never quit.
Well,
he's not a quitter. When people used to sue him, maybe he would never settle. He settled a couple of cases on the verge of becoming president.
Yes.
But he never settled. He said, I can't settle because everybody's after me. I never settle cases.
He's older now.
Well, no, he's president of the United States now.
Yeah, but everybody hates him.
Ridiculous.
Anyway. That's so.
Can we give them some good news?
So my focus is on the right-wing Republicans and how they're maneuvering this.
Yeah. So
sure, give them some good news.
Well, I think the good news is that we hope that this happened as we're taping today. Chelsea Manning, getting out of prison, has to stay in the service and not get paid.
Really?
Did you read this?
No.
Yes, has to stay in the service and not get paid.
For how long?
I don't know.
The length of her sentence?
I don't know.
She has 25 years to go.
As an active duty soldier, Manning will continue to receive health care and have access to commissaries and military exchanges, but will not be paid.
That's crazy.
It sounds crazy. Maybe it's fake news.
Wouldn't you think they'd discharge her?
You would think so, and maybe even dishonorably.
I just hope she actually gets out. As you know, I'm on pins and needles about that. She's due out today as we're taping.
And Chelsea, if you're watching, you're welcome. We'd love to have you in on the show. We're serious about that, obviously.
Absolutely. With Chase Strangio, your lawyer from ACLU.
Make this your first interview.
We're not holding our breath, but we'd like to be on the list somewhere.
Okay.
Meanwhile...
speaking of Mike Pence, he's the commencement speaker at Notre Dame.
They're going to walk out on
Sunday, and there's a big, it's an LGBT protest. It's a protest of his LGBT views. So they're going to walk out.
Because it's in Indiana. Okay.
All right.
Meanwhile, also not getting paid at the moment, Jim Comey.
Let's put that picture up. Guess where he is?
Yeah, let's see.
Jim Comey, This is backstage at the road show of Fun Home in Washington, D.C. at the National Theater. And this is the first thing he did publicly since he was fired by Trump. And they said he came back there with tears in his eyes, as most of us did after watching Fun Home.
Well,
because it's a very moving show.
Very moving. The story is that his daughter saw it in Chicago and loved it and recommended it to her parents. And they got tickets to go see the show. And the tickets they had happened to be the weekend after he was fired. So that turned out to be his first foray into public view. And I'm very, we all have mixed feelings about him.
Yes,
but
we do.
But the fact that he went backstage and had the picture taken, I thought was really special.
And by the way, he was the tall guy in the back.
Very tall. And presumably that was his wife standing in front of him. We got to hold these pictures up longer.
Yeah.
All right. On the other hand, talk about his boss, Jeff Sessions.
Oh, let's do. Absolutely horrified. This is what happens. I mean, Sessions is a maniac about drugs, including marijuana, and he has now ordered FBI agents around the country, the whole Justice Department has to, if somebody's arrested for any kind of a drug offense, you have to seek the maximum sentence possible. Total break from the Obama administration, which said, take it easy. I mean, obviously you want to go after drug kingpins and all that kind of stuff, but not users and things like that, and fill up the prison. I guess, maybe he's pimping on behalf of the prison industry. It's just...
Well, yes, he is, because the whole point is that the Trump administration canceled an Obama order to cut back on private prisons. They're very much in favor of private prisons, which are for-profit operations, and they need to fill up those prisons to justify their existence.
Is your friend President Mike Pence going to keep Sessions on as Attorney General? Sessions can very easily get caught up in this Russia stuff, the way it's going.
He already has been a little bit, because he lied about his involvement. But if they succeed in easing Trump out voluntarily, without prosecutions and impeachment, I think they may make the whole thing just sort of go away a little.
Well, I'm waiting for Comey to be hired by the Senate investigators as their investigator on this case, since he knows a few things about it.
I'll settle for his open testimony,
and
which
then,
could be coming soon.
Again, since we last met, we do have Trump leaking to the Russians and meeting with the Russians, and not, of course, bringing up any human rights issues, nothing about Chechnya, nothing about anything.
He says very explicitly, as Rex Tillerson has said, that they will not bring up human rights issues. They don't think it's appropriate for government officials to be lecturing other countries about human rights issues. Now, heaven knows we support the concept that the United States has enough human rights issues of its own to not be lecturing anybody, but to raise human rights issues we think is completely appropriate, and to take it off the table and think that the presidency is only about trade issues or national security military issues, I think is inappropriate.
Well, I talked to Caleb Orozco this week. He was in town getting an award. He's the guy from Belize who challenged the sodomy law under death threat and everything else and succeeded last August. And I asked him, I said, have things changed now?
Got a court to overturn it.
Yes. Have things changed with the United States in terms of the role? He said, we built a lot of relationships with international organizations. He says they haven't totally cut off, stuff with his organization at the embassy in Belize City. But it's colder, as you can imagine.
I can imagine, and I'm sorry to hear that. What was, the Army and Air Force. I was going to move on to the military. Do you have more on Jeff Sessions?
That 2,000 attorneys from across the United States have signed a complaint addressed to the Alabama State Bar Disciplinary Committee asking that Sessions be disbarred because of the way he lied in the Senate hearing. when he said he did not have any communications with the Russians. 2,000 attorneys from across the United States.
Well, good for them. Meanwhile, in the United States military, you may remember that the last Secretary of Defense under Obama, Ash Carter, decided to make it possible for trans members of the military to serve openly and safely and legally. But the Trump administration, I have trouble even coming up with that word.
It's very hard saying it.
Well, Whoopi Goldberg won't say it. She just says the new guy. But the Trump administration has said that new trans recruits cannot serve yet.
Well,
there are a couple of people at the Air Force Academy and West Point who are graduating who are trans, and they're okay to sort of graduate and be there, but they cannot serve in the armed forces yet.
Ash Carter, they had not completed their procedures for how they're going to handle all this.
Yes,
they said they're going to do it, and then they didn't do it. Now the question is,
well, the new guy has not done it.
Well, whether they will do it.
Yeah. Yes, we will wait to see that.
All right.
Because if they can't even keep the guidelines for trans students in public schools, how can they allow members of the military to serve?
Now, go ahead. Well, we're going to stay on. We're going to stay with all the Trump things. I think we should talk about what this executive order that he signed, this egregious executive order this week, banning funding for NGOs that have anything remotely to do with abortion. Now, we already had some of this stuff in there, but it affected maybe, $600 million in funding. This is going to affect $8.8 billion in international funding. And they're just saying, well, and this is a lot of NGOs that deal with HIV/AIDS prevention around the world, including a lot of the PEPFAR funding. And they're saying, well, just give it to a smaller group. A church, likely, that will get the money now, as opposed to all these other groups that do the work.
If there are other groups. This is the international gag rule, which has gone back and forth in Democratic and Republican administrations, trying to cut off funding for any international medical group that has any remote connection to abortion because some other part of the organization performs them or refers people or whatever. And in Republican administrations, they impose this, and in Democratic administrations, they rescind it. So Trump came in, and the first thing he did on the first day was reimpose this international gag rule. But now they've expanded it. Well, and in many of these areas, there just are not other health facilities that would qualify under this expanded rule. And so HIV treatment, malaria treatment, women's reproductive health, everything is going to be cut off from U.S. funding.
But it's all worth it in the cause of upholding Christian morality, which is why they're looking at Callista Gingrich as the possible ambassador to the Vatican from the United States. Now, this is a woman who was, screwing around with her boss, Newt, while
he was still married.
Yeah, et cetera.
Well, the Vatican turned down a gay ambassador from France. Will they accept Callista Gingrich? Yeah. That would be an interesting question.
Well, he's supposed to meet with Trump this week if he's still president.
Exactly.
And then I was actually a little surprised to see that our Senator Chuck Schumer joined with Chris Coons from Delaware today at the Dirksen office building to stand with evangelical and national faith leaders to support pro-equality LGBTQ policies on the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia.
Yeah.
Because, it was never one of Chuck's priorities, particularly LGBTQ rights, but he is the majority leader now, and he is standing up for us.
I think he's been on board for a while now.
He came out for same-sex marriage,
I agree with you.
Very late.
Yes, but it was still some years ago.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so...
When our friend Kirsten Gillibrand was appointed senator.
Exactly. She forced him to do it because she came out for it immediately. But I think to say that he's not been on board lately is
I'm just
wrong.
saying it's not been one of his priorities. He's more senator. I've been covering him for years.
At this point, the Democrats have very little left, and we are the group
we've
they have.
been to several demonstrations at his house in the freezing cold, because we've got to push this guy.
I've yelled at him.
We need Democrats to be a lot stronger than they are if we're going to succeed in this fight.
Totally agree.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move to the states.
Okay.
In Connecticut, we are happy that Governor Daniel Malloy has signed a no conversion therapy for minors bill. We have a picture of that because there on the upper left is our old friend Joe Graybars, who was an out gay legislator in Connecticut. And wasn't he a military?
No, I'm not sure if Joe was or not.
He came out in the military. He was one of those first people who came out. However, in Texas, they have a whole list of anti-LGBT bills they're working their way through. And the newest one is the Senate passing an anti-steroid bill for athletes in schools. But this is specifically targeted at that trans wrestler who was forced to wrestle as a girl against other girls, even though he had transitioned, because Texas had a rule that you had to compete in your original birth sex. And he was saying, that's ridiculous. I am a boy and I want to wrestle boys, and I am.
And he's beaten all the girls.
Of course he has, because he's taking steroids.
So they're putting their foot down on this and saying you can compete anywhere. Now that's a problem. If you're medically taking something for your health, can you then be banned? Can you ban something that you're taking for that you need?
We'll find out, because the legislature of Texas is doing exactly what it wants on that and everything else.
I mean, we get into this with transgender people all the time. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
He's got to be able to compete somewhere. You can't just ban him from competition.
Yes, they can.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Yes.
But I raised,
and they don't care about trans people. They're not looking for accommodations. They're looking for ways to exclude them from everything.
I raised this with a right-winger in New York, Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and I said, where are they supposed to go to the bathroom? And he said, let them wear diapers.
Exactly my point.
That's what he said.
Yes.
That's what he said.
They don't care.
Even I was shocked.
Well, that's because you have to understand that they're not looking for solutions.
Well, and neither are the Mormons. I mean, they now say that the Boy Scouts' varsity and venturing programs are no longer compatible with their religion. And this affects 130 to 180,000 teenagers, because every Mormon boy apparently joins the Scouts. So they're now looking to do it another way.
I have the figures. There are 470,000 Mormon boys and young men ages 8 to 18 in the United States and Canada. More than 280,000 of them, which is way more than half, are 13 and under and will remain associated with the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but 185,000 of them, and yes, that is all Mormon kids, boys.
14 to 18.
14 to 18 will be leaving the Boy Scouts because of their liberalized policies on gay scouts and scout leaders.
When are you going to get a revelation that we're okay?
Well, what interests me about this,
you got one about black people in like 1970.
500,000 Mormon boys in the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts is a very large number of the Scouts across the country. And the Mormons and the Catholics have been the biggest base of the Scouts.
And the Scouts have left it to a local option about whether to have openly gay Scout leaders.
And they could have stayed under that local option.
Yeah.
But had kept gay boys and leaders out.
They're worried about the organization infecting their thing. Well, look, I went to Chaminade High School on Long Island, and they became so conservative there that the brothers split themselves off from the order to form their own province, so they wouldn't have to take anybody liberal coming in from transferred from another place. I mean, it's just.
Is that the explanation for your fellow alum, Bill O'Reilly?
They always held Bill O'Reilly as a paragon of Christian manhood.
Aye.
My fellow alum. He was a little older than me.
Really? older?
Yeah, he's a little older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another paragon of manhood, Missouri State Representative Rick Bratton. We have a picture of him. He got up and gave a speech that said...
when you look at the tenets of religion, of the Bible, of the Quran, of other religions, there is a distinction between homosexuality and just being a human being. Well, this was...
would it be mean of me or inappropriate to say that I look at him and question his sexual orientation?
People have been saying this, but we don't make observations like that on this show.
Just a thought. No proof.
But he's a big creationist.
He thinks girls should have, and girls should have their father's consent before they get an abortion.
And they passed a bill to make it more difficult for anybody to sue for discrimination. Got to get rid of these haters, folks. Haters.
Yeah.
All right. We did.
In Oklahoma, the governor has signed a bill imposing harsh penalties against protesters. This is basically aimed at people who are objecting to the sins of the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma, where local earthquakes have gone from about 3 a year to about 10 million.
Or
I exaggerate.
This law takes in anybody who conspires with protesters. So you can just be an environmental group that sponsored a demonstration, and you're facing a minimum $10,000 fine.
If someone spray paints a slogan on an oil well.
Should the trespasser in a demonstration, succeed in tampering with the infrastructure of the oil and gas, they face $100,000 in fines and 10 years in prison. Whew.
Well, here are a couple of opportunities for you to exercise your right to free speech in the New York area in the next couple of weeks. This Saturday, the 20th, this Saturday, we are going out, both of us, and many people we know, to Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, to the boardwalk at the beach.
This is the Russian neighborhood in New York.
And we are joining our friends from Rusa LGBT, which is the Russian-speaking LGBT group, which has decided that the Russian community needs to see out proud LGBT people, and because they are not the most welcoming community. And so we are joining them, going to support them, and they have some very celebratory, positive signs, and we're bringing some Gilbert Baker banners.
What are we supposed to wear?
Whatever you want. Well, it's a day at the beach. Will I see you in shorts? No.
No. I don't want to blind people with the sight of my legs.
Well, the temperature will be lovely. It'll be a day at the beach. So we're gathering at 11:30 a.m. on the boardwalk at Ocean Parkway, and we'll march.
Take the Q train out there.
Q train to Ocean Parkway, and QRF. And the march starts at noon. It'll take an hour or two, and then we can go home. Or you could go to Nathan's and get a hot dog.
They're
or
delicious.
Whatever. But Brighton Beach Pride this Saturday, Q train, get there around 11:30 or 12. And then on June 14th, we will be honoring Gilbert Baker by having a rally and protest march, protesting everything. Starting at 6 p.m. outside the Stonewall Inn at Christopher Street and 7th Avenue South.
Stonewall Place.
Yes, National Historic.
For the moment.
Yeah. And then marching down Christopher Street to the river, to the Christopher Street Pier, doing a little rainbow flag raising, and that is going to be a good event.
On Flag Day, Gilbert Baker's favorite day.
Except that it is Donald Trump's birthday.
Well, I think we'll have some messages to send to him.
Exactly.
Unless he decides, maybe he'll decide to come.
Or maybe he'll be out of office by then.
He held up a rainbow flag upside down during the campaign to try to fool you into thinking he was going to be okay on gay issues, which he is not.
Yes, it's true.
All right. Let's talk about this case in West Virginia.
Okay.
Well, the Supreme Court there had a split decision on a hate crimes prosecution. We told you about the case a number of times. This guy, prosecution of Stuart Butler, who reacted to 2 gay men kissing and beat them up. And this is back in 2015. And he's being prosecuted for assault in that case.
Right.
But they said you can't do it on hate crimes because the West Virginia legislature never added sexual orientation. In fact, 26 times said we're not adding sexual orientation, and you can't just use this excuse that it's covered under sex discrimination. Although some of the other judges said, oh yes, you can, because you can't have sexual orientation discrimination without sex discrimination.
Well, these should be constitutional questions, not popularity questions. So the fact that the legislature turned it down 26 times and didn't want to protect sexual orientation, to me seems irrelevant to whether a hate crimes law should include protection for sexual orientation.
One of the judges said, and this is his or her argument, I can't remember, that there's this thing in law. When you commit a crime, you have to know that that's going to be an extra thing.
I thought ignorance was no excuse.
Well, and what you know about the hate crimes law, from what the legislature has done, is that it doesn't cover sexual orientation. That's what they're saying.
Okay, well,
So
I can
bash away, you won't get an extra penalty.
While I can understand that, I suspect that the basher did not sit at home studying the hate crimes law before going out and attacking a gay couple. You know?
I think that there should be a lot more education about laws in this country because there are a lot of minefields out there. We talk to Bill Dobbs all the time, who fights people getting on the sex offender registry. It's so easy to get on that thing from looking at a picture online and things like that. You will be on a thing for the rest of your life, a registry, and you won't be able to get a job, and a lot of these people end up committing suicide over it, and there are 850,000 people on it. Some of whom belong on a registry because they're fearsome people who prey on children. Which of course we want to stop, but it's gotten out of hand. But I think young people should be educated about this, so that they know that you just doing that little clicking there can get you in a hell of a lot of trouble.
And we have several other interesting court cases to discuss. Let us go to
Kentucky.
Sure.
Well, first of all, actually, the court decision in Kentucky was a Christian printer who didn't want to print a T-shirt for a gay organization.
We've discussed the distinction between printing and printers, people who print books, pamphlets, T-shirts, versus, say, cake bakers.
Yes, and always, for instance, printers have always said, if I'm a printer and I don't want to publish pornography, I don't have to publish pornography. That's my right. And I agree with those cases, where if it's a message, you don't have to do it. Now, some of this is too subtle for some people. When you talk about bakers and wedding cakes, the cake itself is something that, if you're selling a wedding cake to straight couples, you have to sell them to gay couples as well. You were not assisting in their, sin. You're selling them a cake, and the anti-discrimination laws say that you got to sell them the cake.
But cake bakers who don't want to sell cakes to same-sex couples have been trying to make the argument that, in fact, it is expressive, and they have a right to not express that
And I would defend a baker who didn't want to write, I love same-sex marriage on a cake, if they didn't approve of that message. I would agree with that.
Well, how about putting 2 brides or 2 grooms on the top?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And the one about photographers is tough because they say this is also my artistic expression when I'm taking the photographs.
But at any rate, this court in Kentucky decided that, in fact, the T-shirt printer is not required to print Pride T-shirts that he was asked to print.
I don't disagree.
I don't disagree either, and there were people from both the left and the right who supported the printer and not printing them, but I also was sorry to see some pushback from some LGBT people who said, how dare he, and
the First Amendment protects us all. You either support it or you don't. This is the Constitution.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, there's this judge in Kentucky, Judge Nance, who says, you know, I don't want to handle cases of adoption for gay people anymore because I don't like it and I think I'm against it. Well, he's a judge. He has shown his bias. So, Lambda, the ACLU, the Fairness Campaign out there in Kentucky, are urging the Judicial Conduct Commission to remove him from office because he's clearly biased.
Well, it's like the Kim Davis case. If you are a public employee, you have to operate in a non-discriminatory way, and it's not good enough to just say I'm going to recuse myself from this because I'm a bigot. You have to actually do your job in a way that is non-bigoted.
Yes.
Interesting case out of Mississippi. Josh Valum has been sentenced to 49 years in prison for the 2015 murder of his ex-girlfriend, Mercedes Williamson, who was a trans woman, 17 years old, when he killed her. The deal was that they had a relationship. They broke up eventually. A couple of years passed, and then he learned that some friends of his had figured out that she was trans. And he goes to Alabama, finds her, takes her back to Mississippi, and kills her to prove his manhood. Now, he's already been sentenced to...
Like an honor killing or something.
Yeah, he's been sentenced to a life in prison by the state of Mississippi for this. But because he took her from Alabama to Mississippi, this was the chance for the first time for the federal government to try to prosecute under the federal hate crimes law, the James Byrd
Matthew
Shepard law, which includes sexual orientation and gender identity in a hate crimes law. I think this is a little piling on, but they wanted to establish the right to prosecute under this law. So he was convicted under the federal law and got 49 years as a sentence.
That's because Jeff Sessions wants the maximum sentence on everything. I'm surprised that Jeff Sessions didn't step in and say, we're not doing this.
Well, one of the reasons this guy killed her was because he and his friends were members of a Latin Kings gang in Mississippi, and he was really afraid that his fellow gang members would kill him if he didn't kill her. Although he said at the sentencing that he regrets killing her. He thinks it was a mistake, and he's sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gavin Grimm's lawyers have filed to continue the case, and a lot of people are filing amicus briefs. The case is not over, even though Gavin has graduated from high school in Virginia.
In Massachusetts, a court has approved a $7.5 million settlement between Walmart and Jacqueline Cote and another 300 plaintiffs who were denied spousal benefits for their same-sex spouses. So that case is now finally done.
In Buffalo, New York, I don't know what they were thinking at McKinley High School, but they were totally abusive to gay students. They wouldn't allow a gay-straight alliance to be formed. They wouldn't allow any kind of organizing. And, you always lose these cases, so the Civil Liberties Union took them on, and they buckled.
I will insert parenthetically here that I had the great opportunity to speak to a high school class that is studying social justice in Brooklyn this week. And they are part of a demonstration coming up on May 27th at 1 o'clock at City Hall here in New York. A student demonstration for New York City school integration and equity. Nice that the students are putting this together with the help of their city council member. And City Hall, May 27th, 1 p.m., student demonstration for integration. I think we had a great discussion at the school. These are great young activists who want to get involved and do things. I congratulate them on this.
It's shocking that, given all the politicians that claim to be for racial justice, that it's not happening in New York, but it's not.
These are kids at the Leon Goldstein School in Manhattan Beach.
A couple of comebacks that we don't welcome. Bill O'Reilly says he was done in by a liberal conspiracy funded by George Soros, and he's lawyered up, and he's going to expose those who smeared him.
Don't hold your breath.
In the Bronx, the most notorious anti-gay bigot in the state Senate is running for city council. He's got a gay opponent named Elvin Garcia. And Milo Yiannopoulos says he's launching Milo Incorporated with $12 million in funding from investors he declines to name.
Oh,
comebacks we don't welcome.
We told you last week about the murder of Brenda Bostic, a trans woman in Chelsea here in New York. She was found lying on the sidewalk at 7th Avenue and
Yes.
29th Street.
Yes.
They have now arrested someone in that case,
Oh,
Joseph Griffin, 26 years old. He was evidently a very violent guy who's been arrested 21 times in 8 years. And was seen on tape shattering a car windshield with a, I don't know, bat or something. He's not mentally well, and he evidently just clocked her.
We want to note the passing of one of the Louisiana plaintiffs in the same-sex marriage case there, John Penton Robichaux, who with his husband Derek fought to bring marriage equality to the nation. He has passed away. They married in Iowa, came back, couldn't get recognized.
And I am looking forward to diving into the new issue of The New Yorker, where there is a big article on a famous lesbian custody case. This is a case we've talked about where a woman adopted a child, and her ex-lover is suing for partial custody because she was involved in helping raise the child after they split up. Very complex.
And I know all the news sounds bad.
That's the Comey cover where they're dragging Comey up the aisle of an airplane.
I have it. And I know all the news sounds bad, but the new Gallup poll says 64% of Americans now support same-sex marriage.
Okay.
International news. Well, in Moscow, did we talk about this last week? The people trying to deliver petitions on this? Yeah,
no, that was another group that got arrested.
Okay. Activists tried to deliver petition signatures, Chechnya, and they were arrested for it, they were detained in Moscow for trying to do this.
We have a picture of them.
Because their action was unauthorized.
They took a selfie when they were under arrest there in the van. What amused me about this is a couple of them are from All Out, which we have somewhat sneered at a little because all they do is collect petition signatures.
And
well,
money.
now they're getting arrested for collecting petition signatures.
Good.
Thank you, All Out, for that.
A complaint has been filed by 3 French gay rights groups at the International Criminal Court against the Russian government over the Chechnya thing.
By the way, those 5 who were arrested in Moscow are being prosecuted for unauthorized public gathering for trying to deliver 2 million petition signatures.
And in New York, they arrest you for disorderly conduct when they don't have anything better to arrest you for.
Yeah, and in the Israeli government raised the question of what's going on in Chechnya, and the Russian embassy told them, there are no problems in Chechnya.
No
We've
homosexuals.
investigated.
No
No
homosexuals.
homosexuals, no violence, no arrests,
We're getting
no
rid of them.
murders, no nothing. Everything is absolutely fine.
I was happy to see that the Attorney General of Panama has said that the same-sex marriage ban there is unconstitutional.
Yeah, that's nice. And in Hong Kong, a court says that the government must recognize and give benefits to men married elsewhere who are government employees.
The first Pride event in Beirut is set to take place.
Excellent. And in fact, a restaurant chain there in an ad campaign in the country has a lesbian couple in the ad campaign. Back to marriage news. In Bermuda, we told you the court had basically legalized same-sex marriage. There are a few more hoops to jump through, but the government will not appeal the pro-marriage ruling. And here's my favorite fact of the week. As you may or may not know, many cruise lines operate under a Bermuda flag. And now that marriage has been legalized in Bermuda, same-sex marriages can be performed legally on those ships of the Cunard, Princess, and P&O lines.
In Queensland, which is an Australian state, they apologized for all the sodomy arrests over the years. The head of government said, "You've been maligned and shamed, and for that we express our deep regret for the hurt you have suffered." One of the people who was prosecuted under the law was present for this, and he said, he was a teacher, and he lost his job and everything, and he had been very, all of his dreams had been dashed, but he says, it's like a cloud has been lifted to see that apology.
I should think so. On a slightly lighter note, in Perth, Australia, the chief executive of Qantas Airlines, who is a gay man and very supportive of same-sex marriage in the ongoing debate in Australia, was appearing at a press conference or giving a speech or something, and this right-winger came up and hit him in the face with a pie. And that guy, who describes himself as a committed Christian, is being charged with assault. I'm not, do you really need to charge someone with assault for that?
Ed Koch was hit with a pie once, the mayor of New York. He sued for assault. I don't think Anita Bryant sued after she was hit with a pie.
She just cried.
No, they prayed. They sat there and prayed. We could show you the tape. You can watch the tape on there.
All right. They pulled off a peaceful pride march in Albania this week.
But we've been telling you about the problems in Singapore, where they have the big pink dot gathering. First they banned gay money. Now foreigners
they banned foreign money.
Foreign money, yeah.
Corporate money.
Foreign money. Now they've banned foreigners as participants or observers. So if you're going to go into this area, you got to show an identity card to get anywhere near it.
A local identity card.
That's how we're going to get this under control, this homosexual problem.
It's interesting because homosexuality is illegal in
is legal or illegal?
Illegal.
Yeah.
You can get a prison term for being sexually active with a member of your own sex.
Yes.
And yet they hold these public events, and the way the government is trying to maneuver around it is to, cut off the foreign corporate funding, cut off foreign participation. I'm not sure those are good strategies.
Well, because they've raised an awful lot of money from within Singapore as a result.
Canada is issuing a rainbow stamp.
Let's show it to them. It's quite attractive.
We have a Harvey Milk stamp here, which I've used.
Now, they've selected 10 milestones over the last 150 years that say this is what it is to be Canadian, and one of them is marriage equality. I think that's terrific. I don't think you're going to find that under the Trump administration, although, I don't know, is the Postal Service still able to do this kind of stuff if they want? It's not owned by the government,
well,
right?
I don't know. But they did issue the Harvey Milk stamp. And once again, Gilbert's rainbow flag is the symbol. And that moves me even more now when I see it now.
As it is in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. We have two pictures here. Not only do they have a crosswalk, a rainbow crosswalk, but that's the first trans flag crosswalk in the world, we're told.
Yep.
There it is.
It's going to be a permanent crosswalk, the trans flag colors. And they do have, there's the gay crosswalk that they also have. So Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada would not have been the place that I expected permanent crosswalks like that. In Taiwan, they're about to rule on same-sex marriage. The plaintiff is a veteran activist. They're wearing a little rainbow schmata.
That's Chechnya Wei, and he has been at it for 30 years there. He's 59 years old, and he's been an activist all that time.
And
he's optimistic.
And this week, Prince William in England was given a Straight Ally Award by an LGBT group.
Well, it's this British LGBT Awards, which is a big, big deal over there. I'd never heard of them, but there they are.
Well, he gave us slightly stilted but heartfelt speech of thanks, and we have the video of that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry that I can't be with you all this evening, but I hope you're having a wonderful time. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone at the LGBT Awards for this incredible award. It's a real honour to be recognised in this way. In recent years, I've become passionate about what we can do to protect people from bullying, particularly online. Through this work, I've encountered a number of tragic stories about LGBT young people who have sadly felt unable to cope with the abuse and discrimination they face in their lives. But this work has also led me to a number of inspiring people who are helping others to stand up to bullying wherever it occurs. It is 2017, and no one should be bullied for their sexuality or any other reason. It's so important to be proud of the person you are. I am very proud to receive this Ally Award. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Well, that is nice, and especially since, as Peter Tatchell has pointed out, the words gay or LGBT have never crossed the lips of his grandmother in public, which is a problem, you know, that she's never spoken out on those issues over the years. I mean, in this way that this generation is.
Well, certainly her progeny are.
Maybe now that Philip is out of the way, because he's the real homophobe over there.
Right. He's now he stepped back.
He saw two men kissing at a garden party, and he said, just, you know, saying hello to each other, and he wanted gay couples banned. This was about 10 years ago, but
Scaring
only about 10 years ago. Scaring him.
All right. Which takes us to entertainment news, and here's the segue. In New York, the Quad Cinema, which has been redone and remodeled and everything, is going to start showing a series of old LGBTQ films, starting with Morris.
Based on the E.M. Forster novel, starring Hugh Grant and James Wilby. And Hugh Grant always said, it was my best screen kiss ever. Said that a long time ago.
That opens on May 19th at the Quad Cinema on West 13th Street.
This is a drama that takes place around the time of Oscar Wilde, I think.
Well, it wasn't published during E.M. Forster's lifetime. He was too scared.
Till he died. It was published around 1970. Yeah. And I was just coming out of the time, and it was a book we all picked up. It was very exciting. Yeah. There weren't that many gay novels in those days of repute. You know,
and it was shocking that E.M. Forster had written this, who was so famous for
and it was semi-autobiographical.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, American Gods, which I watched it for the first time because they had a big gay hot scene in sex scene between two Muslim men, and you know, people said you have to watch this. It's the most explicit thing that's ever been. Blah 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 blah. I mean, it was, you know, it was. I liked the fact that it was two Muslim men, and that you know, but one of them, of course, is some kind of a god, and they're, you know, they're shooting fire into each other, and they're not wearing condoms, and but I thought the whole thing was a little hokey. I have to say.
I'm sure it was. I have no trouble believing that.
Anyway, it's a 4-minute scene if you want to go into it.
Well, in terms of potentially hokey, but maybe not, we've been alerted to something coming up on June 10th on the Smithsonian Channel. They're doing a show called My Big Bollywood Wedding, which is going to cover a number of real-life weddings of Indian people and done up, you know, very over the top. And a lesbian couple will be part of that. So June 10th on the Smithsonian Channel.
Is lesbian sodomy banned in India, or is it just gay male sodomy?
I don't know.
We don't know.
But I loved,
it's still an issue over there.
I thought Monsoon Wedding was a wonderful movie.
Yes, indeed. Jim Parsons, who was the star of, I think it's the #1 comedy on television.
Big Bang Theory.
Married his partner, Todd, of 14, they've been together for 14 years. They met on a blind date at a karaoke bar in 2002 when Todd sang Cher's I Found Someone.
They got married at the Rainbow Room in New York. Congratulations to them. You've been to the theater this week.
I saw The Lucky One. I have this is an A.A. Milne play. I understand you were in an A.A. Milne play once.
In high school, I played Eeyore in some Winnie the Pooh production, very sophisticated. And I sat on the edge. My role was to sit on the edge of the stage, eat thistles, and complain. People thought it was typecasting then.
Well,
now it's 50 years later.
You can put the picture back up. This one was written in 1920. It starts out as a 22. It starts out as a light comedy with a lot of amusing golf talk.
Oh.
But it focuses on the conflict between two brothers, one the lucky, favored one, and the other bitter and resentful. It picks up in the second act when things get serious, and I was especially taken by this woman, Cynthia Harris, as the great Aunt Tabitha. She'd make a great Lady Bracknell whenever she decides to do it. She hasn't done it in The Importance of Being Earnest. So, you know, it's of I would say it's of historic interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
not, you know, it's
pretty generous.
It's 1922. You know, we've already had the great comedies of Oscar Wilde. I don't think it reaches those heights. But, you know.
No, I think Milne was probably better at the Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin series.
I think so.
When We Were Six.
Hey, Terrence McNally has a new play about the Ballet Russe, which was ruled by Sergei Diaghilev and his lover star dancer Nijinsky. Sergei. And Vaslav Nijinsky.
Okay.
Anne is always very helpful. I learn a lot of things watching this show.
And vice versa.
The new play is called Fire and Air, and it bows in January at the Classic Stage Company.
And congratulations to another young actor who has come out as bisexual. You notice I haven't said his name yet because it's a little difficult to pronounce, but let's give it a try.
Oh man! Now we listened to this before the show.
I think it's Keanan Lonsdale. He's on The Flash on the CW.
He did a very powerful Instagram post, and he said, "I like to change my hair. I like to take risks with how I dress. I like girls and I like guys. Yes, I am growing. I like learning," he says.
Well, I think there's more and more of that. You know, I found that with the students I talked to, the high school students this week, that there was more openness, more sophistication, more eagerness to be involved. They had a lot of questions about activism. It wasn't questions about being gay and me being the local lesbian. It was questions about activism.
Yes. Well, of course, you know, for our generation, this obviously made us very different. And coming out was harder, you know, harder. It wasn't I mean, we're post Stonewall, but when it becomes completely easy, maybe it will become nothing. I mean,
well, we have a long way to go for that. And that was one of the
world.
things they wanted to ask me about was, where do you think we stand?
Yeah.
Have you seen things change? Have I seen things change? Yes.
And change back, which they can.
But I invited them to come out to Brighton Beach Pride, and I hope some of them will, and I hope some of you will, because I think it's an important move to be visible in a community that is still not as used to this as some others. So Saturday, Ocean Parkway stop on the Q train.
We'll be there.
11:30 a.m.
You can meet us in person. We'll sign autographs for nothing.
No, we won't.
Well,
yes, we will.
I will.
No, why would we sign? Who would want our autographs?
Once or twice in my life, I've been
we'll
asked.
say
It's
hi.
kind of a funny thing, but
Weird.
we'll see you in Brighton Beach on
Saturday,
11:30, Boardwalk.
Q train to Ocean Parkway.
Okay, thanks for watching.